matatizo, kutumia dawa bila yaka. Shauri wataalamu wa afya, tusipobadili maneno tunasababisha matatizo. Tusitumie dawa bila yaka. Shauri wataalamu wa afya.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. I would like to use the mic, but I'm told there's a certain echo coming from my microphone, that's why I'm not using it. Mostly of the time, I'll try to talk orally the way we can manage, but wherever it necessitates, we shall be able to use microphone. Now, I would like to welcome you all. Please get seated, get comfortable. For those of you that do not have a seat, you can just, outside there are seats that are being provided. Get seated so that we can begin. Now, I would like to welcome the Director for Postgraduates, Research, Technology Transfer and Consultancy, Professor Ezron, to give an introductory remarks and actually welcome our guests, because this actually event stems from your directorate. Please welcome.
Thank you very much. The Vice Chancellor, Acting Vice Chancellor, Professor Maulidi Matawala, who is also the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academic and Research, the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Planning, Finance and Administration, Principals, Deans and Directors, Professor Robinson Hamilton Mdegela, who is the lecturer of today, members of academic staff, students, media staff, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It's my pleasure, first of all, to welcome you all to this special event, which marks actually the journey, academic journey of Professor Mdegela. In order not to waste much time, allow me to go straight to the matter which I wanted to share with you this afternoon. First of all, I feel so honored and privileged to deliver a brief speech on status of research activities at Sokoine University of Agriculture. Ladies and gentlemen, as of today, Sokoine University of Agriculture researchers have excelled very well in research and innovations. The records we have, as of today, we have a total number of 558 academic staff, including 36 full professors, 47 associate professors, 94 senior lecturers, and 150 lecturers. Out of the 558 SUA staff we have, 308, equivalent to 55.2%, are PhD holders. Therefore, this critical mass of researchers is augmented by the presence of more than 900 postgraduate students involved in research activities at different stages during their studies. Together, on average, SUA publishes more than 500 scientific papers every year. Ladies and gentlemen, Sokoine University of Agriculture is privileged to own modern laboratory facilities to support conduct of research which could be done elsewhere in the world. Just to mention a few of them, we have a state-of-the-art molecular biology laboratories hosted by different departments and colleges. Some of these are capable of doing the whole genome sequencing. We also have modern soil science laboratory. We own also a tissue culture laboratory and also the seed health laboratory. Another important facility we have is our Sokoine National Agricultural Library facility, which is a store of knowledge of both hard and electronic database, that is including e-journals and e-books. These electronic databases are accessible even when you are outside Sokoine University of Agriculture campus. Ladies and gentlemen, Sokoine University of Agriculture publishes several journals that promote the publication culture of research findings generated by our researchers. The most popular journals, which are indexed by the renowned databases such as the African Journal Online or the African Index Medicus, include the Tanzania Veterinary Journal, TVJ. We have also the Tanzania Journal of Agricultural Sciences, TAJAS, and the Tanzania Journal of Forestry and Nature Conservation. Ladies and gentlemen, the impact of the presence of conducive environment has national, regional, and global visibility of our university. According to the Webometrics results released this year in August, SUA ranked #1 in citation of work published by her staff and students. We deserve to be polite. Also based on Shanghai ranking of 2022, academic ranking of world universities, which was published on August 15th this year, SUA ranked among the top 200 to 300 universities worldwide in veterinary sciences, where our own Professor Mdegela belongs. According to 4ICU ranking, Sokoine University for Agriculture also ranked among the best 200 universities in Africa this year. Ladies and gentlemen, recently we have also won different research programs and a project, and I want to cite a few of them. Sokoine won 2 centers of excellences funded by the World Bank, focusing on infectious diseases, that is for the SACIT Foundation for One Health, and also the RADTech, which is focusing on biosensors, biotechnology. We also won 1 research chair funded by the Oliver Tambo Foundation, and the chairholder is our own Professor Gerard Misinso. We also host the National Carbon Monitoring Center funded by the Royal Norwegian government. And recently, ladies and gentlemen, we're pleased to inform you that we have established a biofuel center under support of UNIDO. Ladies and gentlemen, we therefore have every reason to be proud of our university, the Sokoine University of Agriculture, for creating supportive environment to sustain research excellency, resulting into producing high caliber researchers, including our own Professor Robinson Hamilton Mdegela, who is delivering his professorial inaugural lecture today. With these few remarks, thank you very much for these brief introductory remarks. Then I return the floor to the floor manager for the next person to be on podium. Thank you so much.
Let's clap for him, please. Thank you so much, Professor Ezron. I think I was really thinking whether the time is enough to talk goods about SUA, but at least you try to summarize. I know there is a lot of things that have been done so far, and I believe people like Professor Tambo has also been part of this, although he has been part for some years. Now I would like to welcome, on behalf of the DVC academic, they say DVC Academic Research and Consultancy, and also on behalf of the DVC PFA, to have a word from his office regarding today's event. Professor Maila, please, welcome for your talk. This man comes from Kandamaru. Do you need a mic?
I don't think if I need it. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to take this opportunity to represent the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academic Research and Consultants, in giving a short speech about the essence of inaugural lectures. The Honorable Vice Chancellor, Acting Vice Chancellor, the inaugural Professor, Professor Mdegela, directors, principals, deans, students, invited members of the public, but I would like to emphasize some names here. Professor Minga, Professor Mtambo, Professor Kileo, Professor Nonga. And my forgiveness, and I apologize for those whom I did not mention, but these are very key members of this inaugural lecture, and maybe more details will come from them as we go down. Yeah. The essence of inaugural lectures. Professorial inaugural lectures are prepared and delivered by newly appointed professors as one of their duties provided in the scheme of service and the SUA Up the Ladder 5th edition. Furthermore, this is a worldwide practice to celebrate the professorship in the universities. The newly appointed professors are supposed to prepare and deliver a professorial inaugural lecture within 6 years. And these lectures are supposed to provide us with lots of opportunities. Number one, it is an opportunity for the newly promoted professors to showcase their academic achievement, their contribution to scientific knowledge in quest of solving societal problems and promoting academic well-being of the university. This is in fulfilling the university's mission and vision. Number two, it is an opportunity for the management to appreciate the hard work of one of its own staff, to acknowledge the efforts, the sacrifices, the hurdles, the challenges, and sometimes disappointments the staff face in the academia. Number three, it is an opportunity for young and aspiring academics to be inspired. And I believe today we have a lot of new young blood, maybe for the first time in many years, to have more than 70 new academic staff at your door. So this is a very good opportunity for you to get inspired and know where you are going. So to know ups and downs of academic path and the ways of doing things the right way. And lastly is an opportunity for the SUA community to celebrate academic life of one of our own. Certainly this is a rare moment for staff to meet, to mix, and interact in the academic setting. I would say it can be an opportunity once in a blue moon. It is worth celebrating a professor who is boasting of 3,848 Google Scholar citations. And he ranked 16th among top Tanzanian scientists according to AD Index. Well, what is AD Index? If I can ask the young ones or the old ones. This is a world scientist and university rankings, Alpadoga, which is giving day-to-day updates on scientists. So Mdegela is the 16th in the country. So let's clap again for him. With these few remarks, I would like to return the mic to Mr. Mdegela. Sorry for calling you Mr. I know you are the Russian.
Thank you very much, my boss. Can we clap for him, please? I didn't believe we could do it without a mic, but you tried. Now, members of the audience, it's a high time now we have a word from the big office. The big office is the Vice Chancellor's office, and without losing time, I would like to welcome Professor Motala on behalf of the Vice Chancellor to deliver a word from the office of the Vice Chancellor. Please welcome.
Professor Amandus Mhaira, the DVC PFA, and in the interest of time, I would say all protocol observed. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So let me first of all take this opportunity to welcome you all on behalf of the Vice Chancellor, Professor Raphael Chibunda, who could not make it because of some other engagements. He would love so much to be among us today, but because of some other engagements, he couldn't make it, and therefore I'm representing him today on this very important academic gathering. A special welcome to our guests, and because these are the guests of the Vice Chancellor, let me acknowledge some of them, although the DVC and IFE also acknowledge some. So we have Professor Ezron Nonga, who's Director of Veterinary Services. Maybe they've forgotten you, please stand up. We want to see him. He's from SUA. He's still at SUA. We have Professor Madundo Mtambo, who is the DG of TIRDO, with us today. And we have our colleagues from MUHAS, Professors Kileo and Professor Kakoko. Please. And we also have colleagues from Prime Minister's Office, Mr. Harrison Chinyuka and Valentina Sanga. He's over there. I would like to leave the special guest, because the special guest has a special introduction. So we'll get to know him better when the time comes. But enough to note that we have with us Professor Minga, who is a special guest. Who's he? Some other people will come and tell us why he is so special to become a special guest today. So, very short remarks from the Office of the Vice Chancellor. And as you can see that we heard what Professor Karimuribo has explained on how we stand in terms of research, because research and publication paves the way to the inaugural lecture. You cannot deliver these lectures if you never did research and afterwards you couldn't publish. But we also heard about the essence of the inaugural lecture from the DVC PFA, that it is an obligation. It is a must. I mean, we don't enforce it, but it is a must that within 6 years of being appointed as a professor, we use the full, but it's professor, you have to deliver a lecture, but there are no strings attached, so we can go away from them. So, and let me say a few words. I mean, recently we have to encourage people from the other fields to come along and deliver the lectures. During the last 6, I think, all these are from the kingdom, one kingdom, from Kingdom Animalia, I would say. So we heard about rodents from Professor Makundi. I talked about arthropods. I was still on the same side. We had something from Professor Chenyambuga on fish, so still on that the same direction. Then we had from the heat shock treatment from Professor Malago on the same side, the animal kingdom. And today we have Professor Mdegela on the animals. So the plant people, the foresters, engineers, and all these, please come forward and also try to emulate what the people studying animals and the low animals like us are trying to do. So just a few points. I have about 5 or 6 points just to explain why the university treats this as a very special occasion and to explain what the university does in order to facilitate such people who eventually would come forward and deliver such a lecture. First of all, the university recently has started to allocate a special budget to support young and emerging staff to win small grants within the university. About 20 to 30 are offered annually in the name of SUA Research and Innovation Support Fund that we call SUARIS. So we think that's a starting point for young academic staff to embark on a journey and ultimately reach where Professor Mdegela is. So we have released up now 3 calls for research. It's our hope that in the future such people would reach this level. But the university facilitates the whole management of research through the directorate that Professor Karimuri was talking about. Research needs coordination, needs supervision, needs so many things, and the university through its directorates is offering such services. And now we believe that out of those coordination, that's why people like Professor Mdegela can deliver and come forward and offer such lectures. But we are also doing stuff on capacity building, also for the young members of academic staff. And we are doing it on 2 venues. We organize annually 2 writers' workshops. One for those who want to write proposals for winning big grants. So we train them. We train the young academic staff to write such kind of proposals. But we also train them on how to write manuscripts that can be submitted to credible, high-impact, good-quality journals. So annually, we organize 2 of such workshops for the young academic staff. But also, when you publish, you get promoted. You get to a point, and through our scheme of service and up the ladder, that's the way to acknowledge your efforts, and you get promoted along your academic path. It's a way of acknowledging what people are doing. But from the next budget, the university is setting aside money for 2 activities. One, money to support what we call research groups. 2 colleges have already formed such groups. College of Forestry, they have research groups, and Corners, they have research groups. And we encourage others also to set such groups. And when there is a call and they would like to respond to such a call, university will facilitate them starting next year, so that you don't shy away from such big, from international competitive calls for research grants. Along the same line, the university is also setting aside money to facilitate those who would like to publish in high quality, high impact, credible journals. Some of these, they charge a lot of money that academic members of staff may not be able to pay. So from the next budget, the university will also support people who would like to publish in those kind of journals. And this is in line with what Ministry of Agriculture is doing, because they are going to give prizes to people who publish in those journals, a prize of up to 50 million shillings. But we believe it's not easy to do it if we do not support you to publish such papers, on the ground, because you have to get it in place, submit it, get it published before you can access such money from the ministry. So from next year, that will be part of support that the university will be offering. So those people who want to publish in those high quality, high impact journals, some of them expensive, Emerald, Flows, Frontiers of Science, such kind of journals, don't shy away, because the university would support you. But we also acknowledge, we really acknowledge staff who do very well. And annually, we started 2 years ago to recognize at the end of the year the best researcher at Sokoine. And luckily, they also come from, they all came from the animal. No, Kashaigiri was we are being dominated by animal researchers. And then the last thing that we do every day is to support and recommend, because people do apply for grants and the university has to recommend. And that's what the Vice Chancellor is doing almost every day. When letters of intent come through, letters of support come through, that's what the university has been so positive about. This is the time of thing that the Vice Chancellor normally do it very, very quickly. These are the kind of files that we would like to see them move along very quickly so that we do not lose such opportunities. Because of those opportunities, that's why we have people who are ranked very high in research like Professor Mdegela. So these were the short words that I had to say on how we are trying to make things happen by supporting people so that in the end we have people like Professor Mdegela who can come forward to deliver lectures. And the one important thing is we also support hosting of these lectures. So if you are ready, I know someone is already, I don't see him here. He's also from the animal kingdom. He's ready, so come forward and we are going to support you because we really value these kind of things. As Professor Mahira said, they happen once in a blue moon. Now, before I move on, because I have to follow a little bit of protocol, I also appreciate the presence of the family of Professor Mdegela. So allow me to introduce, for those who do not know her, Professor Helen Limo. I did it on purpose to if you really know her. So is that married? No. Yes. And the daughter of Professor Mdegela, Margaret, and the whole family from Professor Mdegela. So they also joined us to support the professor today. With these two remarks, I would like to thank you once again for your attendance and looking forward to a very lovely lecture from Professor Mdegela. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice Chancellor, for the great remarks on your office. You did well on the introduction, but then this big man, you didn't say anything about him, the bishop. Can you just wave? This is, I'm told this is Professor Mdegela's uncle. So it's within the blood. Eh? That's why one time I was wondering why Professor Mdegela usually listens a lot when they play gospels at the right. The connection. So thank you very much, Mr. Vice Chancellor, for the remarks. Now it's a high time we're approaching to the great moment. And the one who takes us there is the one senior lady, somebody who has been on toys to groom the nation, someone whoever has gone through the plant kingdom has been through her hands. The lady who is renowned almost everywhere. And whenever you speak of her name, everybody dances to the tunes of excellence. Professor Sibuga, please welcome. For Professor Mdegela, please welcome.
Thank you very much for the compliments. In recognition of the high table, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to begin by saying, Salimu wote katika jina la Jamhuri. I feel greatly honored that I've been asked to introduce this renowned scientist, as we have already heard. but there's more to come. Professor Robinson Mdegela is a senior veterinarian specialized in fish medicine and ecosystem health. He received his Bachelor of Veterinary Medicine from Sokoine University of Agriculture in 1996. He went on to receive his Master of Veterinary Science in Veterinary Microbiology and Molecular Biology from the Royal Veterinary and Agricultural University Copenhagen in Denmark in 1998, and went on to graduate with a Doctor of Philosophy in Aquatic Toxicology from the Norwegian Veterinary School of Oslo in Norway in 2006. But he has also received other training, which include training in risk analysis and modeling at the University of Pretoria in South Africa in 2004, and also advanced training in ecosystem health, Oceanographic Institute, Florida Atlantic University in the USA, as well as Micro Conservation Center in Florida, also in the US in 2008. In addition, Professor Mdegela also received OIE advanced training in fish medicine at Rhodes University, Eastern Cape in South Africa in 2011, and went on to receive advanced training in One Health Leadership at University of Minnesota in the United States of America in 2012. Professor Mdegela joined SUA on the 1st of April 1999 as an assistant lecturer, and he's therefore also my student. Even though I'm not in the animalia. He climbed up the ladder and reached the level of a full professor in July 2014. Professor Mdegela has a 23 years teaching experience in public universities here at SUA and other national and international universities. At SUA, he teaches undergraduate and postgraduate students on fish, wildlife and livestock medicine, risk analysis, environmental toxicology, One Health medicine, globalization and health, population and ecosystem health, and environmental epidemiology. Over the years, he has also been serving as guest and visiting teaching professor on emerging pandemic threats and One Health at Helsinki University in Finland, University of Copenhagen in Denmark, and National University of Science and Technology in Zimbabwe. He is active in research with over 200 scientific publications. Over 158 have been published in peer-reviewed journals, over 44 and 44 others in proceedings. His publication profile can be viewed at the Google Scholar website, but he boasts of 3,336 citations. He also boasts to have the B index of 24. What this means, ladies and gentlemen, is that he has, out of his papers, 24 papers have each been cited by 24 others at least 24 times. So you can do this. He also has an I-10 index of 76, which means, can be interpreted as the number of publications with at least 10 citations, which means out of publications, 76 have received at least 10 citations. This is no small feat. On research, Professor Mdegela has been involved in the development and implementation of more than 33 funded research projects by multinational development partners, also serving as principal investigator in 12 out of the 33. Among the funding agencies are USAID, US, of course, USDA, also of the US, NORAD, DANIDA, Carnegie Foundation of the US, International Foundation for Science, CEDA Sweden, CEDA Canada, Wildlife Conservation Society, FAO, Commission for Science and Technology, that is COSTECH in Tanzania, and the National Research Foundation of South Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Mdegela has 3 national patents with protection from RERA. Professor Mdegela has been equally active in consultancies on many fronts, including antimicrobial resistance, aflatoxins, pollution of aquatic environment, ecosystem health, climate change and health, risk analysis, and One Health workforce development. This was commissioned by, all these consultancies were commissioned by renowned international organizations such as the FAO, ADB, USAID, SNB, PAN UK, and the Resistance Partnership of the United States of America. Over the years, Professor Mdegela made a significant contribution during the initiation, development, and delivery of 2 new regional MSc programs here at SUA. The first of such programs was the Master of Science in Natural Products, Technologies, and Value Addition. And the second of such programs was the Master of Science in Health of Aquatic Animal Resources. In addition, he played a central role in the development of a genetic curriculum on pandemic preparedness using One Health approach for the East African region. Those of you who have passed through the airport, I think you know what I'm talking about. Professor Mdegela is a member of different national technical working groups, as well as national advisory committees, currently working on the global health security agenda. These include the National Action Plan for Health Security in Tanzania, and the Multi-Sector Coordination Committee responsible for development and oversight support for implementers of National Action Plan on AMR in Tanzania, antimicrobial resistance in Tanzania. He also served as the vice chair for technical working group that carried out a situation analysis on antimicrobial use, on antibiotic use and resistance in Tanzania in 2015. For the time being, Professor Mdegela serves as the head of the Department of Veterinary Medicine and Public Health at SUA, and at regional level, he serves as chair for Research and Ethics Section for AfroHan Academy based in Kampala, Uganda. With support from the International Center for Antimicrobial Resistance Solutions, he serves as the lead researcher in 2 solution-based AMR innovative projects supported by ICARS. The projects include optimizing vaccination and biosecurity regimes to enhance fight against antimicrobial resistance in commercial poultry production in Tanzania, and mitigating the spread of antimicrobials and resistant microbes through treatment of manure. Ladies and gentlemen, with this brief, I now present to you Professor Robinson Hamilton Mdegela.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, it's high time we listen now. And with that, well, thank you, the big shots. I wanted to welcome you to your seat so that we can get to see what's happening. Professor Mdegela, you have a decision. You can come this side to be able to move with the projection, or you stay there, depending where you think it's convenient. So the session will go on for 1 hour maximum. And after that, we're going to have a moment for questions and answers and some contribution from the floor. But thereafter, we shall have other session that will proceed as will be headed by the coordinator or the moderator. Madam Eva, we have Madam Eva from Professor Mdegela's office, please. Eva, I called before we began and I'm calling again. Madam Eva, please, you're delaying us. Okay, now, members, we have heard, like, Professor Mdegela has got a really biography, something that you struggle to make it, because imagine, like, I was reading the whole thing was like 48 pages, and I was like, oh my God, this is... So you imagine, like, where are you and what have you contributed to the world of science? I think the high time now to start contemplating your position and deciding where would you like to be. Is he catalyzing your professional interest like the topic is up to? Or you're being demoralized like you cannot wait there? I was chatting with him. He started from a humble beginning. He never thought of being a lecturer at the university. And initially he said he was like, he wanted his career in the veterinary medicine, but he never expected to become an academician. But later on he found himself venturing into the academician, and I think he said he had a lot of encouragement from his relative. Now I see that word of encouragement could have come from Dr. Mdegela, the bishop. Did you do it?
I took him to the high school to see how the high school was doing. And then I introduced him to a good meal.
That's interesting. So you realize there are many people behind his performance. So I believe those of you who are trying to learn from him and emulating from what he has done, this is the high time. And actually, seeing a person who gets you motivated, you can even touch base with him. He's in the College of Veterinary Medicine and Biomedical Sciences. And he can give you some secrets of the success. Okay, now as he prepared for presentation, he said, Madam Eva, we still, she's on the way. Yeah, he wanted to proceed, but we have like 5 minutes we can spare for him. I was telling the story about the encouragement to take over the academic work. And they said, initially he was worried, even like, naturally he told me, he's a shy person. And they was wondering whether he would face the students. So, but then he gathered courage from the encouragement from the relatives, and but particularly he's one of the supervisors. He said, Professor Minga. Now I'm privileged to see him today actually. He mentioned you, that you groomed him from his special project. So he said this man groomed him a lot and gave him confidence. So when he started presenting his first lecture, he realized people were following up and actually they were understanding. So he was like, oh, so these people can really understand. But so that gave him a courage, and he could easily now carry on with his work. But every time he said he's a perfectionist actually. He wants perfect thing. So every time he would sometimes suspend the lecture to go and confirm some of the issues. You remember he's teaching the veterinary medicine. So sometimes we'll give them a break and they go back to the office and they dig again. Am I doing the right thing? Isn't that so, Professor Mdegela? So he has been a perfectionist, but the person who doesn't want to poison anybody. You know poisoning? When you give people false information, you're poisoning them, isn't it? So why you would always go back and recall and make sure that you get the right knowledge is because he didn't want to poison anybody. So that is Mdegela in the making. And they said he decided to concentrate on research because that is the huge capacity had been built on by Professor Minga. And then later on, he realized publication could, he said the publishers were on demand for his work. So he would always dish out the papers, and they didn't even take count of how many has he published. And later on, he even forgot to ask for promotion because he was just publishing, didn't know those could amount to promotion. So it was like he would again be asked by his principal, don't you have anything? Wouldn't you have to inquire for promotion? They say, oh, maybe I've got something. Then he was reminded that he could apply for promotion. So I was telling my brother, maybe you delayed reaching where you're supposed to be because you're too busy with work and they forgot about taking advantage of what you're doing. This could be the same to many of us. Like we keep on doing the job. We keep on doing the job, but then we do not ask for the reward from the job we are doing. So with that said, I wanted to give you a bit of the secret you have shared with Professor Mdegela, and now I was cooling down his tension. And now he's ready to give you the lecture. Please welcome.
Thank you very much, Professor Mdegela. The Vice Chancellor for Sokoine University of Agriculture, the Deputy Vice Chancellors, Principals, Deans, Directors, my fellow heads of departments as have been introduced, academic members of staff, supporting staff, the students and the general public. Media and my friends that have been struggling along the journey on antimicrobial resistance. My special distinguished guests, they have already been introduced, specifically from the Prime Minister's office. I don't want to repeat their names. Ministry of Livestock and Fisheries, FAO, we have colleagues who are attending this lecture virtually. So I would like really to recognize the Secretariat for African One Health Initiative in Kampala, Uganda. Countrywide, they are represented by Professor Kileo, Afro-Huni, Tanzania. The International Center for Antimicrobial Resistance Solutions in Denmark. The Global Challenge Research Fund in UK. I know they are following us. The World Health Organization Country Office. Members of the Multi-Sectoral Coordinating Committee for National Action Plan on Antimicrobial Resistance. I understand they have a meeting in Dar es Salaam. They have suspended their duties to follow this lecture. More importantly, I'll mention them for the second time, my family members, starting from my beloved wife, Professor Helena Ngowi, my daughters and granddaughters, son-in-law, Bishop Emeritus, and the founder of the University of Iringa. Dr. Bishop Oldenburg Moses Mdegela. Who gave me the orientation how the university looked like in 1974 in Kwawa High School by then. Other members, I can't name all of them. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Good evening. I feel honored today to have been given a special occasion and opportunity at Sokoine University of Agriculture to deliver a professorial inaugural lecture titled Catalyzing Solutions for Antimicrobial Resistance in Tanzania, and basically using a One Health approach. It's a very difficult topic, and one might ask why you chose a difficult topic. I find like the topic is timely, relevant, and as I continue presenting, you realize why I decided to choose the topic, though sounds difficult. Ladies and gentlemen, the title itself, as I'm saying again, is rather challenging. You may recall during the introduction, the terms of references that I got were to deliver a lecture expected to be attended and understood by the academic members of staff at the universities. We know you are talking about the professors, senior lecturers, and so on. Furthermore, it should be relevant to non-academic members of staff, the students, and the general public. Deductive law consideration, it means my presentation be understood by all those in my terms of reference. It should be oriented to the general public. Because if I start presenting about the DNA and the genes, it might be difficult for some of the general public to understand. So I said it was a bit difficult to decide on what to go for. So this is the outline of my presentation. And to start with, I'll start with the reflection. In a brief note, the first research I worked on in my special project was on ducks. I couldn't find a picture of way back 1995. The second one was from chicken under the Shepruka project under Professor Minga. So I decided to show him a nice picture of chicken, rural chicken. I went further, I did some research in the national parks. You could see flamingos from Manyara National Park. Further to that, I have research career in commercial chicken. We started very small, and if you read about the FAO characterization of the poultry industry in Tanzania, the commercial biggest producer, by then they were having about 3,000. Today, my friend, a farmer in Morogoro, is having more than 25,000 chicken. So this is the farmer in Morogoro, and that is where I work now, the antimicrobial resistance as it was introduced by Professor Sibu. What about other animals? I happened to go and work in Serengeti and Ngorongoro National Park for more than 3 years under Mensel Foundation. Reason behind, after finishing my master's, there was nobody here on fish medicine. Professor Msola said, you are the youngest in the department, you must follow the path. So I worked in the national park, and you could see the lion at the bottom. I was working with the feline immunodeficiency virus related to the HIV, tuberculosis, and many other researchers. That's why I call myself as a professor in ecosystem health. And it's Professor Minga who cautioned me, you have to be very careful sometimes to call yourself a specialist, because by definition a specialist is the one who knows more and more about less and less. So you can avoid. Going further, I worked again in the ecosystem, specifically on food systems in the southern highlands of Tanzania, particularly in Jones. And I went further on fish, and that is where I belong. Used my toxicology expertise in fish, luckily enough trying to advance further the issue of fish diseases, fish medicine. That is where I belong today. And more importantly, I'm using fish as a model also to assess if the environment is contaminated with emerging pollutants, in particular cancer and the chemicals that cause infertility. Last but not least is on natural products created by God, and they are very helpful in making us survive. In relation to antimicrobial resistance, we realize there are a lot of chemicals that can kill pathogens. Something which is not palatable, again, some of the products increasingly are becoming adulterated with the conventional drugs. So we are working in that area and are part of the process. So before I start presenting the stuff for today, I like puzzles. And when I saw this one, it showed me like, it's the real puzzle to think about when you think about antimicrobial resistance. This picture is a nice one, and when you present it to people, my students will say they are seeing a face of somebody, a clever professor. But the others would say, no, we are seeing a person in him. And I think this is another person within this big professor. And this professor, you see, is having a very good hair. But basically, others would say it's a smoke from the train. And others saying, I'm seeing the ears, and others saying it's an angel or another person in the same picture. So we have clever artists. And I got this from one of the artists, and I thought I should present to you saying, the topic that I'm going to present today is not as simple as the one might think, having different multiple answers as you see the interpretation from what we have. But now, why this title? Catalyzing Solutions for Antimicrobial Resistance in Tanzania using One Health approach. It goes back to the history. I like the history of this country. If you read Tano Constitution and the Tano Creed and the Constitution of the United Republic of Tanzania, the founder of this country, the father of the nation, President Julius Kambarage Nyerere, he clearly stated that we have independence and we have three enemies. And the enemies that were mentioned included ignorance, diseases, and poverty. His friend later on, Sokoine, he said you must add and push the agenda of corruption, which became like the fourth enemy. Ladies and gentlemen, diseases are inseparable with antimicrobials. So I thought it was important to speak about this, and my topic is relevant to the struggle we have been having over the years on diseases. Furthermore, I went and read about the inauguration, the lecture when Sokoine University of Agriculture was inaugurated. That was in September 1984. President Julius Kambarage Nyerere. He further stated that it was time to establish the university with the 3 faculties. He mentioned about the Faculty of Agriculture, Veterinary Sciences, and the Forestry, and the more to come. The key message, he said, farmers that you are serving in the community, they have very little understanding about the boundaries you are putting yourself as experts. So his question and the message was, you must work together. And if you read his speech, he was talking about one health approach. So when I'm sitting together with my friends from the Prime Minister's office, they are key, and I worked with them. They are mentoring us up to now about one health approach. We should understand it's not new. President Nyerere spoke about one health approach. So I thought it would be good for me to use the one health approach after understanding the mechanics of it to see if at all I'll be able to solve or to show how we can solve the challenge of antimicrobial resistance. So that is, I would say, is the reason why I thought I should go for one health approach in trying to solve the antimicrobial resistance. It's a bit technical when you talk about antimicrobial resistance, and we are still struggling today to see how best we can make it easily understood. And before we discuss or I present about antimicrobial resistance, it would be a good idea to give you a little bit of history on the so-called antimicrobials, which comes from nature as well as those that are synthesized. And the history about antibiotics, if you want to go through it, you'll meet names of professors like Ehrlich and Alexander Fleming. They came up with a magic, and the magic was a drug, out of their work in 1904, when Ehrlich was doing his work trying to cure syphilis, a disease which was killing people without a drug. He was working with chemistry. And the breakthrough by his work, the magic battle, it was after realizing that some dyes and the chemicals, if given to the individual, a host, the chemical would differentiate, would move to different compartments differently. And he realized you could have a drug killing the disease-causing agent without harming the host. So together with his fellow scientist, Alexander Fleming, they came up with a good discovery, forming the basis of the presentation today. Sir Alexander Fleming, he was a good microbiologist. In 1928, if you go through literature, they are mentioning that he was smart with some negligence in it. He went for a holiday and he left some plates for Staphylococcus uncovered. And when he went back, he came back after the holiday. He realized the plate which was open was having a growth of bacteria, but with a growth of fungi around it. And around that fungi, there was no growth. A student of today will discuss that plate, because you know what you did was out of plan, and you can't go to a professor saying, I left my plates open. You'll never get the degree. But for him, he decided to follow it up. And when he followed it up, he decided to capture the fungi, and he realized this fungi was able to kill other microorganisms, other bacteria that were killing people. That was the discovery of penicillin. Before discovery of penicillin, having a challenge of infected wound, having pneumonia, out of 100 people with the disease, without penicillin, by luck, only 10 were surviving, and 90 were dying. After discovery of penicillin, the story changed. Out of 100, and if you follow in 20 days, 90 were surviving, and accidentally 10 were dying. So that was a magic discovery indeed, and he was happy about it. If you read my book, this discovery was taken up by the government. Soldiers going to army were very happy. Certainly I'll go home alive because of the magic drug that is penicillin. It was accidentally discovered by Sir Alexander Fleming. Soon after that, a number of researchers were working so hard to try to come up with new drugs. And indeed, a lot of discoveries went on, and a peak being in around 1950s, where a number of drugs were discovered. However, before that, before 1950s, the same scientist, Alexander Fleming, realized that there was a problem that some of the drugs were no longer working. They started working, but after a time, they stopped working. And it is the one that he called the antimicrobial resistance. So the image and the support to discover new drug, though continued, but from 1980s, the discovery of new drugs has been very slow, tedious, and expensive. And what does it mean? We need to preserve the one we have. The drugs we are talking about have been discovered from different sources. We have bacteria, we have fungi. On top of that, we are having some drugs that are synthesized, leave alone the drugs that we are discovering from the plants. We can't mention all. So as I mentioned, in 1940s, 1945, Sir Alexander gave a lecture during his Nobel Prize in 1945, saying the time may come when persons could visit a shop and buy a drug, use it without receiving a prescription from a doctor. And basically, he talked about antimicrobial resistance. So he discovered the drug in 1928, mass production 1940. By 1945, Alexander Fleming recognized that some drugs were no longer working from the so-called antimicrobial resistance. So we are referring to a situation by which microorganisms, which initially could be killed by a chemical or a drug, no longer respond to the drug. That is the one we call antimicrobial resistance. Under selective pressure is when we see such antimicrobial resistance magnitudes increasing. I must say that antimicrobial resistance is natural. It's natural in the sense that you have the microorganisms, following treatment, some will die. You see one in green color surviving, others are still susceptible. And when you have the first dose, maybe you have few surviving. With the second dose, you have the susceptible one dying, remaining with the majority which are resistant. And the resistant one are the ones which will survive and cause challenges to the population, cause challenges to individuals. Ladies and gentlemen, antimicrobial resistance is a natural phenomenon. And it is a microbial struggle. in as much as you are struggling against climate change. Bacteria, when exposed to an unfavorable environment, they also struggle to survive. So to them, it's a good thing. For bacteria, it's a good thing. It's a survival mechanism. It's inherited. With the knowledge today we know is coded by the genomic materials, the DNA itself, but you have some genetic elements like plasmids. However, for the genetic elements to be expressed and the genomic material to be expressed, we require some pressure from outside, and among which is the irrational use of antimicrobials. So to speak, irrational use of antimicrobials is among key drivers for the emergence of antimicrobial resistance, meaning that under natural condition, if there is no misuse, no exposure to such chemicals, you cannot get resistance, and if at all the treatment will be instituted, the person or an animal will be cured. Failure to that, the animal or a human being may end up dying. Every corner today you hear about antimicrobial resistance, and you ask if at all is a new thing or not. Apparently it's not new. As I've mentioned, it was described for the first time by Sir Alexander Fleming in 1945. Today I see a number of publications. So since then we had a number of publications for antimicrobial resistance, and by 1960 you could see very few publications were received outside. Today we are getting more than 30 publications just in one search engine. If you go through PubMed, that is what you see. So it's a big forest about antimicrobial resistance. And what it tells us is that, and from the One Health perspective, as I will explain, is a challenge that must be, that requires solutions from multiple actors. So the message here is not new. But again, is it relevant? Ladies and gentlemen, antimicrobial resistance is relevant. Sometimes we neglect, but a paper published in Lancet in 2019 is giving us those statistics. The World Bank commissioned a consultant who came up with the statistics that by 2015, globally, the antimicrobial resistance was killing about 700,000 people globally. By 2019, the number has increased from 700 to 1.27, almost 1.3 million, closer to 1,400,000 people are dying from antimicrobial resistance per year. It's not a small number, ladies and gentlemen. To let you understand, malaria is killing 640,000 per year. So antimicrobial resistance is killing twice as much as what you experience on malaria. HIV/AIDS is killing 860,000. So antimicrobial resistance, ladies and gentlemen, is killing almost twice as much on what we see. So it's not a simple thing. When I was asked to present to the general public, I was trying to figure out the best language that would be understood. In other words, if you consider the population of Dar es Salaam of 6 million, the challenge of antimicrobial resistance would wipe all people in Dar es Salaam in 4 years. If you think about Morogoro today, the population of Morogoro municipality is less than 500,000. So it means it is killing all people of Morogoro, Iringa municipality, Dodoma, in 1 year. Yes, because the population today of Morogoro municipality is 450, is killing 1.3 million. Meaning is almost 4 times of the population of Morogoro per year. I could hear people saying, those are simple statistics. Professor Sibuga taught us statistics. Thank you very much. You remember that. We must understand these figures. So it's not a simple thing. When I'm saying I'm presenting about the antimicrobial resistance, is a serious challenge. Killing 3 times of the population of Morogoro per year. Twice as much of what malaria is killing. So it's not a simple thing. In terms of economics, we have some figures that you will find in my book. It is of economical importance. It causes some reduction in GDP, livestock production, but also it amplifies the poverty. Lucky enough, I'm having a small book here which you will all receive. You have all the figures. So these are the projections and the reality. So indeed, antimicrobial resistance is not a small thing, and it's something which we must work hard, fight against it. These are the figures giving us the data. As I mentioned, by 2015, it was killing 700. With the current projection now for 2019, it was now estimated to kill almost 1.3 million. I mentioned about antimicrobial resistance is a serious challenge, ladies and gentlemen. From my figure, for example, penicillin was discovered in 1928. A few years later, we have resistance against it. We have other groups. Every group you see here for the drug that we mentioned, it couldn't take time before the resistance was discovered. We should not be scared too much. We should find the solutions. Antimicrobial resistance is there, and as I said, is a survival mechanism for the bacteria. Other people would say, it's unfair. Bacteria themselves, they would say these people are unfair because they have their own language. They are very smart. They will give us a disease, and when we die, they will eat us. So bacteria are very smart. They are very smart. So this is the picture on antimicrobial resistance, discoveries, and the resistance which we have experienced. You realize that you have a number of drivers because people are sitting and are working so hard finding drivers for antimicrobial resistance. The drivers that I'm going to mention out of my studies and my fellows, because this is the introduction, the number of or the amount of the resistance that you see contributed by human drivers, factors, is almost the same with what you find in animals. So we share responsibilities, and that is the value for one game. We are talking about antimicrobial use. The issue here is excessive use of antimicrobials. So do we have proof that we are using antibiotics irrationally? When I'm talking about irrational use, ladies and gentlemen, when you get sick, you must visit the hospital, go to the health facility. The doctor will prescribe and they'll get a drug. Out of that, you are among those that are misusing the drugs. So this is a very difficult environment because I was trying to figure out if I could be part of that. If you ask yourself or I ask you, how many times have you taken antibiotics and antimicrobials without prescription? You have the answer. I don't want to point fingers to people because my mentor said, don't ask. Some people might be having it in their pocket now. Some maybe took it in the morning. Some are having it in their vehicles. So the good thing here, I'm having a bishop who can ask us to repent. We consider that like a challenge. But we have to be very careful because sometimes you say we have a bishop who will ask us to repent. Himself, he might be having antibiotics in his car. So you might wonder who will ask him to repent. I don't know. But in reality, we are using antimicrobials and sometimes unnecessarily. Initiatives are there, and in Tanzania, from the studies that have been carried out, and we have a report coming soon about the status of antimicrobial use in Tanzania. This is what you find. Basically, we are lucky because we are educating people, and we see indication of reduction on what was used in 1915 all the way to to 20, for example, 21, you see some reduction by almost 85%. This is the current data, and we'll have the report, implying that antimicrobial use is there, but people are now trying to work hard, listening from the campaigns, listening to what experts are talking about, try and preserve the existing one. The message here is antibiotics, in a broader sense, antimicrobials are good. And without them, in most cases, we end up dying. We must preserve and use them wisely. So we have data for consumption in humans, but also we have consumption data for animals. We have some studies that have confirmed the amount of antimicrobials that are used in the livestock industry. This is an underestimate, but it's talking about 12 million tons for antibiotics and antimicrobials are used in animals, with the most famous one, the tetracycline. So it's a serious problem, and if you go through, you realize that out of the amount which is used, the biggest percentage is in powder form. Now the powder form, which forms about 65%, plus what you find in oral form, forming about 28%. In total, you are talking about 93% of antibiotics, antimicrobials, are used orally, and in most cases in poultry. The poultry industry is growing very fast and is expected to feed the country in the future in terms of animal-derived protein. The message which you can derive here, yes, we are using these antibiotics in such amount. From the pharmacology and the toxicology viewpoint, it's only 10 to 30% which is utilized, metabolized and utilized. Leaving alone 70 to 90% are metabolized, which goes out of the animals through manure. Manure is a precious material. We are now struggling for organic farming. Using what? Using manure. I'm not saying that manure is contaminated with the antimicrobials, but this is the data. So I'm having my friends here who are talking about organic farming without chemicals. Lucky enough, we have some data on that. So what I'm projecting basically is out of my studies, the studies that have been carried out to try to quantify how serious antimicrobial challenge is. It's not a simple thing. And more importantly, when animals are treated with the diseases, scientists are very clever. They would say, you should observe the so-called withdrawal period. And what does withdrawal period mean? After you have treated an animal, they ask you if you are keeping a broiler and you have used an antibiotic. For example, this antibiotic you should wait for 12 days before you sell the meat, before you slaughter the chicken for meat consumption. We have milk, for example. So if you have treated an animal, the instruction says you should wait for 3 days or 4 days before you milk the animal for human consumption. Failure of that, you are contributing to unintended consumption of antimicrobials through consumption of animal-derived protein, which could be a challenge. So I'm not saying it's our practice, but my data has shown me that the withdrawal period which we have in Morogoro, the withdrawal period we have in Tanzania, is such a serious problem in the sense that some people are not observing it. I presented and the people said, no, it is observed, and I had a student, they said, you don't care. Please show us where you throw out the eggs and milk so we can go and do some research. We couldn't find any. What does it mean? So it means the milk and the meat after treatment is still kosher. Again, it's something which is difficult, maybe would require repentance. But I'm not very sure, because I know even the bishop was keeping chicken and the dairy animals. He might be observing this, but sometimes it might be difficult. Where you find it being observed, ladies and gentlemen, normally there is the so-called compensation. In Tanzania, there is no compensation. My friend who is keeping 25 layers is getting 23 eggs per day. And you ask him to throw 23,000 eggs for 10 days. That is the reality. You should understand the statistics. It's not easy. You ask them, they say, we observe with the draw period. You treat your chicken? Yes. Where do you throw away? They will say, don't ask us. That is the challenge I'm talking about. So you realize that one is also contributing to antimicrobial resistance. I mentioned to people, my friend took a loan, and in the bank they don't even consider saying, you had a problem of disease, you treated, and for public health importance, you had to throw away the meat. My fellow mothers and sisters, you have Vikoba. When you meet on Sundays, you have to pay back the Vikoba. Nobody will say you had to safeguard the public and you had to throw away the meat. So basically you realize it's not a simple thing. It's easy by saying, but practicing is not simple at all. Do we have evidence for antimicrobial resistance? Ladies and gentlemen, yes. We have some studies that have been carried out. For example, in the northern part of Tanzania, Bugando in particular. They considered the Escherichia coli and the Klebsiella in different health facilities. These are the results for the resistance at the district hospitals. This one is from the regional referral hospitals. And that one is for the tertiary or the national referral hospitals. What you see here, in terms of resistance, you have lower resistance at a district level if you compare to what you find at a regional level and the national level. And the people are saying why? Ladies and gentlemen, when you go to the district hospital, get treated. If you don't recover, they would refer you to the regional hospital. And in my view, if I read the statistics well, it appears these people who they get a resistance from here, they are referred to the regional, the resistance continues. So they don't recover here, and you still find the resistant at a national referral hospital like Muhimbili and Bugando, and there you mention of them, and basically you end up dying. So it's a serious challenge, and what does tell us? We have this data now from the research, and our fellows are working very well. It tells us that we are having the treatment guidelines for antimicrobial resistance. The point would be we should have interpretation of the resistance differently. And let us have the standard treatment guidelines, maybe at a district level, different from the national hospital levels, together with the regional hospital levels. It's a very important finding from our fellows that are working on AMR. So the resistance is there, it is not a simple thing. This is not readable, but I decided to present it. So ladies and gentlemen, out of the drugs which we have some drugs which are no longer working. Currently we have only 3 or 4 drugs that have proven to be very good. The red color you see is about resistance. So we go to hospitals, get treated, we don't recover. Enjoy those colors. But what I wanted to tell you, I took some few data. For example, today, ladies and gentlemen, if you get treated with the ampicillin, the resistance now is almost over 90%, almost 93%. When we presented this data, I remember the chief medical officer and the chief pharmacist, they said, we think immediately we should take action to make sure that it's no longer there. But how many of us are still taking amoxicillin? How many of us are still taking ampicillin? So to speak, we have very few drugs, almost 3 of them, as I mentioned. You find, because here you are talking about the resistance, which is not a simple thing, and most of the drugs have developed it, with the exception of very few drugs around here. which could be still useful to treat patients. The same thing with the model for Escherichia coli. You find that the resistance is very, very high for drugs like ampicillin. So it gives us that we should wake up and take actions against this. Ladies and gentlemen, that is from the human side. Animal side, we are having some challenges. For example, here we are having climate change, shortage of water, and you end up using water which is available. One of which is the so-called low-grade water, as per definition by WHO, 2006. Initially, they used to call it wastewater. They have changed the definition. And if WHO changes the definition, you should ask yourself why this water is used. We have some data, and basically what you find fish in that water. We have some institutions in the country now formally keeping fish in this water, and we are enjoying such fish. To say the least, I was able to find a fish which was 8 kilograms in that water. Good one, and in Morogoro. Who consumes? I'm not saying it's you, maybe you and someone. And these guys are very clever. They would go and they fish in Mafisa. Early in the morning, they will go along the road. Where? Closer to Mindu Dam. So when you drive there, you find Mindu Dam. You enjoy, you know the fish there. But now, today, if you remember the lecture by Professor Matawala, trade is very important. So they move the products from one place to another where they can get good money. What about vegetables? I was in Dodoma. Basically, we are having 3 tons of vehicles transporting vegetables irrigated from this water to other places. We have done research in Morogoro. Ladies and gentlemen, you have realized if you follow procedures, then you can produce safe food. So we have been having a project, and among the materials which we have been looking for is antimicrobials, antimicrobial residues, and antimicrobial resistant pathogens and the associated genes. So this is the challenge. We have other drivers for animals. We are talking about having doctors, veterinarians, and I don't know why, but some of them up to now, we are producing more than 100. Not all of them are employed. And another thing, Tanzania privatized. We went through privatization. So animal health services is under private. Veterinary doctors are very clever. They don't want to live in rural areas. You ask them why. They say, I don't know. They give funny reasons anyway, but generally, if it's private, you go where there is money. Money is in urban areas, not in rural areas. So who the doctors are there? These are my friends. These are doctors that are treating their animals in rural areas. We have a big number of cattle treated by these guys. Recently, we have carried out a study trying to assess if the vegetables and the fruits we are consuming are having some antimicrobial residues, are having pathogens that carry resistant genes, and the resistant pathogens altogether. Ladies and gentlemen, as I'm saying, I would like to point out solutions. We need solutions. We carried out a study and we realized 100% of our products we are having contaminated bacteria, contamination with the bacteria, and the majority with the resistant genes. Leave alone the antimicrobial, the antimicrobials themselves. So you ask yourself, should I go away from what would cause the resistant? Meaning that you should not eat meat, no fish, no water, no vegetables. No what? No chicken. I don't know if we have the answer. But you realize actually is a serious problem that must be taken into consideration. And more importantly, when you realize that we used it to have a same level in terms of quantities of what we could consume in terms of tubers, I mean roots, cereals, eggs, meat, and so forth by 1960, the same level. But today we see high level, the big number, what we call nutritionally good food, condensed rich food like eggs and the meat. the number has increased very high. So this is what we saw. We could see the extent of contamination with the pathogens carrying some resistant genes. It's difficult to interpret, but I thought I should project it so that we have the evidence. So this study was carried out in Morogoro. Is another study to assess if at all the so-called low-grade water was safe to be used. We did the study, and we realized what we have in our facilities. We have ponds, like pond system, 6 of them. Water would go in the first pond, rotate through, and after 32 to 35 days, the water would go out of them, out of those ponds. And what we measure is the so-called biodegradable oxygen demand. Apparently, when you measure like that, you find it's not there. Not it's not there, it's within the acceptable range. However, the indicators and the measurements which we are taking are not in conformity to what today the world would wish to see. We would wish to see if at all the water coming out of the treatment plants is free from antimicrobials. So our study basically, when we looked through, we realized that in the first pond, for example, if you think about trimethoprim, we have some drugs as indicated here. Basically, the first pond, we had high levels. By the time, after a month, the water was now being discharged out of the treatment system. It had acceptable levels of the so-called biodegradable oxygen demand. Still, it was contaminated with antimicrobials. And we gave the recommendations, we had to participate in their meetings, saying it's high time that we consider other parameters, additional parameters, to help safeguard the public health. What about manure I mentioned? So in one of the studies, this is what we realized. With the treated chicken, we collected the manure, which was highly used in vegetable production and in aquaculture. We found high levels of antibiotics, the quinolones, the tetracycline, as you could see. So high concentration of the antibiotics in the manure from the poultry, followed by the pigs, and lastly from cattle. Aquaculture is now expanding. The policy in Tanzania does not allow use of antibiotics in aquaculture. It's expanding. If you go to the Lake Victoria now, we are having more than 640 cages. It's an intensive production. We have moved from producing less than 10 kilograms of fish per hectare. Now we are talking about closer to 1 million kilograms per hectare. With that, there could be use of antibiotics. So currently we are working there, and in as much as we are saying policy does not allow, we have realized that there is a chance of getting diseases in the industry, and basically FAO has now released a list of antibiotics that could be used in the fisheries, not in the fisheries, in the aquaculture sector. So it's another driver which could end up contaminating water. So we ended up by saying antimicrobial resistance is a wicked problem. And by considering it as a wicked problem, what does it mean? It's a problem that has no one answer. If you go through Google Translator, wicked problem means dudu baya. So antimicrobial resistance is defined as a dudu baya. I said dudu baya, why? Today, some people say it's a good thing, and the pharmacies are opening every day. You ask them, they want to make a business. We are now inviting investors to come and invest in industries to produce antibiotics. They want to sell antibiotics. At the same time, we are saying we should minimize the use of antimicrobials. It's a challenge. Again, as I said, it's easy to say, for example, from the economic losses that one would encounter, most of us are not observing the withdrawal period. Me and others are not observing it. As I said, I don't know why. Sometimes we travel. I traveled to South Africa. I almost died. I got sick. I could not get antibiotic. So I got a lesson. Every time I travel to Europe, to US, I must carry antibiotics in my body. And I'm going to US, to Paris, to preach about antimicrobial resistance. And I'm talking about the resistance. Yet you realize that the systems that we have in those countries are far ahead of us. You are in those countries, you are given a family doctor. So you don't wait until when you are critically ill to go to the hospitals. In Tanzania and in other developing countries, that is a problem. So should we ask the doctors not to start giving antibiotics to their patients before we get lab results? It's not easy. You end up letting people die. So we are saying antimicrobial resistance is a wicked problem, good or bad. What you would consider as a solution might not be a solution to others. You consider it as a good product, others might say it's not a good product at all. So ladies and gentlemen, we are saying it's a wicked problem. So now with this wicked problem, what do we do? Now we are struggling now with the technology, but if you go through my book, you realize that we follow the so-called One Health approach. One Health approach to guide us come up with the so-called solutions for antimicrobial resistance. And I decided to point out eight issues that we might consider through the presentation we are having today, which has helped us to realize that we are part of the process of fighting antimicrobial resistance. The solutions that we are pointing out, number one, we should consider that One Health as a solution in the sense that we need everybody to be part of the process to fight against antimicrobial resistance. Number one, we should focus on governance and the partnership. We started the movement of antimicrobial resistance way back, it was way back 2015. So I decided to project here because I was part of the team that developed the situational analysis for antimicrobial resistance in Tanzania. What we developed here up to date is still useful. We have been having the National Action Plan for AMR. So we started here, and what made us succeed is the government governance, good governance, and the strategic partnership using One Health approach. So it's a catalyst. And to make us succeed, we started by asking and presenting the matter at a national level. So we had some meetings, engagement meeting at a national level, and then we convinced the President's office in 2013 to officiate One Health, which would help us solve the challenge of antimicrobial resistance. At the same time, we are having One Health approach, which we think should be applied, especially to the private sector. NGOs, they are very good, and sometimes actually they get resources more than what we have. And I've been working with the media, we have seen how One Health is useful in trying to solve such challenges. We are having antimicrobial resistance workforce development. Workforce development, what does it mean? We have a challenge and we must find a way of solving it. We are now having programs to work with the students before they graduate from the universities. So we have pre-service training programs at university level, and we have pre-service at certificate level. I feel so happy that when we started in 2015 and 2020 working with the One Health approach, it was very difficult to convince people that One Health could really cause change in Tanzania and in many other places. As I'm speaking today, the grassroots population is saved by the certificate diploma holders. As I'm speaking, all the curricula in Tanzania for health institutions, they have now One Health approach, and antimicrobial resistance is part of it, which is a great success. And I feel like it was a good contribution from our work. That's why I thought, I think I should present about this challenge of antimicrobial resistance solutions. So we are mentioning about One Health workforce development in the sense that you want to increase the understanding of people so that they work using the procedures that have been given to them. And we are having a network, AfroHUN, African University-led One Health network based in Uganda. It has been very instrumental now for more than 10 years. They have now decided to establish an academy. So we'll have an academy in Uganda for One Health where we could share practices, we could give people, we could have a community of practices and so forth. Another solution is, when we do research about AMR, given that AMR is for everybody, it's for lawyers, it's for language people. I tell you, when I was preparing, I received 2 messages, actually yesterday. And this year we are going to celebrate World Antibiotic Awareness Week. Others are talking about usugu wa dawa. Others are saying antimicrobial resistance is about usugu wa vimelea. So which, and those are experts. Others are talking about usugu wa vijidudu. And others are talking about usugu wa vijisumu. Wa vijisumu is a Swahili term. So we have a serious challenge about asking right questions when you are trying to get the right answer. And basically, I remember a quotation by Albert Einstein, who said, if I had an hour to solve a problem and my life depended on the solution, I would spend 15 minutes determining the proper question to ask. For once I know the proper question, I could solve the problem in less than 5 minutes. So even ourselves, we are working hard sometimes without knowing the research questions. That's why when I report today like antimicrobial resistance, it was difficult to say I should invite media today, because tomorrow it would be a difficult moment trying to clarify. And I ask them, why do you write like that? They say, we want punchy news. So punchy news, what does it mean? Punchy news to them is something which kills more. So they will forget the solution and they will go and say, next year, all people in Morogoro will die of antimicrobial. That is what they want. So how do we solve that? So one of the solutions when you use One Health approach, it has been to work with the media, engage them, and tell them that we are having a question. You know actually, a few weeks ago, there were some questions here. For example, our students would say, develop the method. And when you're developing a method, you select and get samples you are sure that they are having antibiotics. The interpretation is difficult. So a student will say, yes, I was able to develop the method. This is what I quantified. Media will take it and they'll say, oh, the student developed the method and all eggs in Tanzania are contaminated, never eat them. You get the point? So we need to have right questions to guide us have the right answer. Infection prevention and control is another solution which we must use. And so to speak, there is nothing new. Infection prevention is about hygiene. So thanks God, I'm having people here who can help us. When you read good books, be it from Islamic religion, Christian religion, for example, Moses moved the people in the desert for almost 40 years. And you know, if you read the book, let's say, not Exodus, yes, they are talking about washing hands. So before you congregate, Exodus 30, they are saying you must have a bronze of water so that you wash hands. And it was very good during Corona. Where has it gone? I'm not sure. If it were during Corona, we would be having water outside there. But I'm happy people are having here sanitizers, which would save, okay, instead of water. Another one, actually, they talk about the use of toilets, use of washrooms. Those guys in the jungle, they were instructed when they walk, they must have a hole. So they were having a hole, and they were saying, if you feel like relieving yourself, you must dig a hole, put your stuff, then hide it. For God hates about it. So I'm happy we are having religious people here. I think AMR should be part of the agenda of the religious people. And actually, if you read Kumbukumbu la Torah, they are talking about it. And I think it can help, because people outside there, they believe mostly from the religious leaders, which should be taken into consideration. Another solution, last but not least, is about harnessing science, innovation, technology. I hear and understand that using One Health approach, you can do wonders. One, we have viruses which can kill bacteria. The phage technology. it could be used. God created the viruses, and each bacteria has its own virus. We can collect them, harvest them, prepare them, and they can help us. Another one, we should talk about sheer technologies, for example, polymers, which can destroy the viruses and the bacteria without application of antibiotics. Again, without forgetting the use of the nanotechnologies. So, ladies and gentlemen, from the presentation of today, we are saying antimicrobial resistance is a challenge, is a global challenge, which kills us, is an enemy which must be fought by all of us. Whether you are expert in language, and if you are, help us to have the right language about fighting antimicrobial resistance. If you are a microbiologist, help us to have the right activity to be done. If you are expert in sociology, this is the right place to work. If you are administrator with some funds, help us to get resources. We have people who can work for us. Ladies and gentlemen, if we use One Health approach, which is an integrated approach of making sure that people from different disciplines work together, we can manage to fight antimicrobial resistance with the aim of preserving the drugs which we have to continue working, but at the same time to slow the emergency of antimicrobial resistance. I present it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, applause, but that's not enough. Raise up, ladies and gentlemen. Please raise for the... Okay, for an applause. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Professor Robinson. We have heard you. But now, this is where the challenge begins. You can sip a bit of water, because the next level is for the question and answers. But when I was listening to you, then I heard a certain quote, like if you have to be given an hour to look for a solution for a problem and answer for a problem, you would spend 55 minutes thinking about what kind of question should you ask. Then we have half an hour for question and answers. Are you going to spend 25 minutes thinking about the questions? Okay, Professor Robinson, we are thankful for what you shared with us. We had a lot of challenges. One day I met a young man who was asking, like, you intellectuals are crazy. I went for a presentation, somebody was talking about a forest. I thought this is the best option to go for. But when I went to the crop scientist, I said, hey, without a crop you cannot survive. Then I went to the vets. I was told about this animal disease, and I remembered about the cry in my home. And then I thought, oh, I cannot live without animal. And actually this was echoed by the people in the nutrition who say we need protein, we need sulfur, vitamin, and the like. So in the confusion world, do we really agree the world of academic, the confusion world? Yes. In the world of confusion, is it true? Okay, thank you so much. Now it's an hour, half an hour time for the question and answers. We are going to have three sessions, three sub-components of the hour, of the half an hour, whereby you will ask a question, then we shall stop, have the response from the presenter, and then I'll take the next, then I'll take the next. I think that is the best way to get things further in a very clear way. So, ladies and gentlemen, based on the presentation that you have heard today, or anything that is connected to, you're welcome for your questions. But should not only be question, you can have even an addendum, a contribution to the knowledge that has been given. Can I welcome those? Yes? Professor Roemam online. Professor Roemam, please welcome for the first question. Hello, Remam? Can we hear you?
Can you tell him to unmute? Unmute.
Please unmute your microphone. Yes? Professor Remam, your time, please.
Okay, fine. All right, finally they've allowed me, because I was not allowed to speak before. I wasn't allowed because they thought I might have clapped during your presentation, Robinson. This was fantastic, and I'm going to clap. Now, I think I would like to pick up two things. The first one is I want to address us as members of Sokoine fraternity about One Health. We've been around 2008, and the Sokoine is the hub for One Health in Eastern and Southern Africa. But then you still find people are looking at One Health as, oh, that is only for the vets and the medics. It's much more, and it's getting much, much more. Now, well, somebody was muting me, not me. Maybe they don't like what I'm saying. But let me just put it into Morogoro language. So we've been trying to explain it, and I'm glad now at the global level, the quadripartite, the FAO, OIE, we now call it World Organization for Animal Health, WHO, and UNEP, brought up a new definition of One Health after global consultation, lots of experts. And I really would like that every principal at SUA with your colleagues take time to look at that definition in the three domains, what it is, how we approach, and what it means in development. When you do that, you find we need to start looking at Sokoine as a major player in One Health, several, not just simply the veterinary college, right across. We took some initiative. We were, we're now, it's about the third round. We're getting the PhD students and One Health full systems, whereby we are placing PhD students in several colleges. Now, I think as a university, we really need to accept that is going to be the norm. And we will be discussing a bit more later on. And secondly, Robinson used the word community of practice. I think we also need to, within SUA, to look at what that means. What that means is one of the elements of that is community of practice is an enemy of silos. So I think with this expanded One Health approach, with the terms like community of practice, which we've been using since 2008, I'm very glad to hear Robinson using that. We really now need to use those in a positive way to develop the strength of Sokoine. SUA does have internal strengths but there has to be a little bit compartmentalized and doesn't quite follow the philosophical language we heard from Mwalimu at the beginning.
Thank you so much,
And
Professor.
yes, and I want to say, yes, we can.
We can. We can. Thank you so much for the contribution. That was really impressive. It is an addendum to what the presenter has done. And I think it is no question, but rather an addition. Like SUA should think of One Earth as a vital unifier element to bring our units, to bring our colleges together, so that we can operate in a way like we can achieve a common goal based on what we do and work on our daily undertaking. Can I welcome my question? Yes, Daktari. You can speak up. You can be heard.
First of all, I would like to appreciate the lecture from my teacher, Mdegela. But also, we appreciate that antimicrobial resistance is a wicked problem. So we need to rethink how we navigate our partnership within the context of One Health. But also, the gap that I want to ask the professor is that I see the gap in the health literacy within the community. How do we address that? The health literacy within the community.
Health literacy.
Yes.
In connection with the antimicrobial resistance.
Yes.
Thank you. I think he will respond. Can take an yes, Professor, but no, you are from the same college. Professor, yes, please welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much, Professor Mdegela, for the very inspirational presentation. Your lecture. I'm Professor David Kashagi. Mine is on related to your presentation. I would like to know what the kind of highlight from your side underlying the aspect of circular economy. When we talk of a circular economy, the emphasis is more on the reuse and the recycling. Now you have highlighted on the challenges around AMR, but there is quite little on the solutions towards partaking the aspect around the circular economy, which is really encouraged at the more global dimensions. So I would like you to kind of highlight us on how can we go around this circular economy to take the advantage of recycling and the reuse, especially when it comes to the use of grey water under different value chains. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Yeah, Dr. Babir, please, when you stand up, mention your name, then ask the question. We will take note of who you are.
Dr. Mdegela mentioned about contemplating inviting media regarding how sensitive the topic is. But we are aware this time there's no specialized like journalist. It's like everybody can be a journalist. There's many media like Twitter. So can you put an emphasis on that aspect, particularly with communicating risk, that there are people who are entitled to communicate risk, and this sharing is meant for academic and is not meant to sharing or communicating risk. I'm also happy that the framing research took in 1928, because that is sad story of the research conducted in Alabama and Guatemala that used Black American as a test people to discover the medicine for syphilis. So I'm happy that framing study became earlier than what happened later. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Now, Professor King, please. Welcome.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for just giving me this opportunity, although I was denied in the first time. My name is Wahab Kimaro from the Department of Veterinary Anatomy and Pathology, College of Veterinary Medicine and Biomedical Sciences. First, I should congratulate Professor Mdegela for a good topic. Myself, I was well enlightened on the antimicrobial resistance. From the beginning, you gave the source of antimicrobials, one being the misuse or utilization of the antimicrobials. And then lastly, you gave the solutions. I would have been happier to hear from you a comment that considering the behavior, social behavior of our people, our community, that when you go to hospital, if you are not given a medicine, you think that you are not treated. You just go and take your own drugs. Then you go to the pharmacy without a prescription. You are given a medicine. So there is a lack of reinforcing dispensing regulations. So what's your comment on this? Because we'll continue doing that, although we have the knowledge that we have resistance on that. The second comment I would like you to highlight on the...
Would you summarize, please? We are out of time.
This is very straightforward now. What are you advising the policy on the compensation? Because another source is from the animal sources. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Your neighbors. No. Dr. Richard Mdegela.
Thank you very much. My name is Richard Mdegela from the Department of Science and Horticulture. Number one, I would like to congratulate my former teacher, Professor Mdegela. I met the first time.
Can you speak up a bit? People don't hear you from the other side.
I'm congratulating Professor Mdegela for the well-deserved achievement. Now, my question. I saw him trying to negotiate in putting the message, it being not a threat, but being a catalysis towards the solution. But I understand the majority of us took it as a threat. And many of others outside there will understand it, take it as a threat, because you are talking about death. Now, in the field of toxicology, food toxicology, we are now talking a lot of toxins. You are talking of antimicrobial resistance.
I would request that you don't make it another lecture, but rather ask questions or streamline your contribution.
Yes, I'm building the ground. You are talking of antimicrobial resistance, that is one. But outside there, we are talking of pesticide residues in the same food system. Outside there, we are talking of natural contaminants, mycotoxins, and there are different types in the same food system. Now my question, can we have a unified message that can go to the community and cater for all these threats, rather than taking one solution called antimicrobial, the other solution mycotoxin, the other solution pesticide residue, and there will come more and more and more. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I will allow the presenter to take this first session, then we shall proceed. The time is still on, and we still have some spare minutes. We shall keep asking the question. Professor Mdegela, would you respond, please, to those questions?
Thank you very much, Mr. Facilitator. And I also wish to express my sincere thanks to the audience and those that have contributed through asking questions, and also from the compliments that I've received from Professor Mark Royemam, among founders of One Health approach. I acknowledge Professor Royemam. Thank you very much, and the way you used me to advise SUA what next. We are far, far better placed to lead the nation. And that is the truth for reasons that Nyerere himself, I don't know about the speech in other institutions when they were inaugurating them, but for sure you read the speech, President Nyerere talked about one health, foresters, agriculture. You must work together to come up with the solutions. Thank you very much. Now, straight to the question. The first question regarding AMR as a wicked problem, and the question was we should think how to navigate to make sure that we come up with the solution, but again taking into account the illiteracy in health. And he mentioned about the community. Straightforward, I would say, being a One Health challenge, something is already going on at the community level. We started with the awareness creation and trying to work with the systems way back in 2010. So to speak, the initiatives that have been going on even at SUA, it has been at a higher level of education. You'll agree with me, SACID Foundation, for example, the main focus was to have good programs for PhD and postdoc students. Africa One, the same. There are very few organizations, networks, for example, that decided to put emphasis at a bachelor's level and now going down to the grassroots level. I mentioned during my presentation, Afrohoon, for example, has worked so hard. It was a process, a journey of almost 7 years to work with the government to accept that training at a certificate and a diploma level, countrywide, understanding that diploma holders and the certificate holders are the ones that are in direct contact with the communities to have the knowledge on One Health approach, to be used to solve emerging diseases like COVID-19 and others, but at the same time to solve the silent pandemic like AMR. So what is happening? Educating the community. So, and when you educate them, in my view, you are solving the challenge of illiteracy as the member asked. So indeed, there are initiatives which are going on, and this country is very good. We started working at national level, getting experts, tested the models. Now we are having models working at a grassroots level, at a community level. And in reality, the illiteracy is going down. The challenge is that having knowledge is one thing. Being aware is one thing. We are having other important issues. For example, in change of behavior, we have barriers, for example, for change of behavior. I'm having a granddaughter. I tested her one day. Do you know drugs? She said yes. Which one? She talked about Panadol. The second one, it was Rangimbid. Where did you get it? She was suffering in her school. Then the madam gave her a drug. So she is aware of antibiotics. She can't mention that it was chloramphenicol, but it was Rangimbid. What does it mean? So if a 6-year child knows about drug, we should pass a message about antimicrobial resistance. They could be good ambassadors and responders to help us move. So the level of illiteracy, health illiteracy, basically is going down. A lot of is happening at the grassroots level. The question by Professor Kashagiri, thank you very much. I'll be straight. Circular economy, I understand. And in my research, I'm having 2 models that I can share with you. One of them is the Njombe model. We went to Njombe, farmers were keeping animals, dairy animals. They were producing at most 6 liters of milk per animal per day. We intervened through the circular economy principle. We decided to invest in manure. Manure is a waste material. By using manure, farmers were able to produce enough animal feeds. Using manure, it was a catalyst to clean the animal house. You wouldn't find manure left, and therefore they were controlling the diseases much easier. We ended up having farmers getting about 15 to 25 liters of milk per annum by just investing in circular economy. The manure were used as a fertilizer, the manure was used as biogas. And through that, you could see circular economy working very well in improving the livelihood economy at the local level, but at the national level as well. Another model is from the wastewater. WHO has changed it. It's no longer known as wastewater, it's low-grade water. We are getting food from it. Ladies and gentlemen, when we mention about solutions, what does it mean? If we have vegetables, for example, our research has shown us that you have a risk of getting antimicrobial residues if you eat roots. So why can't you grow leaf vegetables and avoid flash irrigation? We focus now on underground irrigation. If we do underground irrigation, you end up getting safe vegetables. At the same time, you have cleaned water. You know aquaponics principle, how it works. So basically, it's cleaning and using what would be regarded as a waste to improve the productivity of another commodity. So thank you very much for the reminder. Circular economy is working and is a good weapon to fight antimicrobial resistance. Thank you very much for that. About media, it should be well understood and interpreted here. We are not hearing about media. We are taking them into their part and parcel. Right now, on the 18th to 24th, we will be commemorating the World Antibiotic Awareness Week. It is our 6th year now. And every year before we go for that week, we have a session with the media for 3 days, so that they could be well educated and help us to pass the right message. So it was like you need to be very careful when you are asking questions, coming up with an answer on what to present to media. That was my message. It doesn't mean that we are fearing, they are part of the process. And the media is everywhere, you cannot run away. The most important thing is to have the right information that can help the community. Use it to solve the challenges which we are having. There's a question about risk and the fear. I'm not very happy and I feel scared when scientists who are risky assessors feel happy passing scary message without solutions. Mind you, as academicians, we are risk assessors. The government is very keen. We have a mechanism. We are supposed to identify the hazard, characterize it, study the exposure, pathways, and so forth, end up by characterizing the risk. So the risk analysis pathway. Then there is the so-called risk communication. How do we communicate risk to who? To the risk managers, and the risk manager is the government. And for them, what I've learned, the risk assessment report that scientists produce is just one component on what they consider in the process of managing the risk. They would consider, they would consider political, they would consider economic, technological. If you use Pastel model, they take all them into consideration before they say, we use your suggestion or not. And for them, always they want to calm the fear. So you would say we have a serious problem, the government, their role is to calm people when you are finding a solution. The same thing is done by our mothers at home. We have a problem as a father, calm people when you are looking for solutions. But if you start running away, it will be a disaster. From Professor Kimaro, thank you. Misuse of antibiotics. You said we should consider behavioral change. We had good models. We had a challenge with the system here, so some of the slides you could not see. But we are putting emphasis that educating people, creating awareness is one thing. The most important thing, we must work with the barriers and the incentives for change of behavior, because that is the most challenging issue. So knowledge is not enough, as you pointed out. Then you talked about the compensation. Ladies and gentlemen, in as much as it sounds sweet, it's not that easy. So I'm having my mentors here from the Prime Minister's office. I had a lengthy discussion. They said it's a nightmare I don't know when. It could go even maybe 100 years to get a compensation. So what we need is to find solutions, and the solution is biosecurity. In Tanzania, things are now coming. You can produce and get enough milk, meat, and eggs without use of antibiotics. I think that should be the way to go. So we should not be thinking about the compensation. It's not easy, but think about the biosecurity and other measures which will make us produce better. Lastly, from Mdegela, I take your comments are good, and what I would like to say, these are different antibiotics, for example, toxins, pesticides, mycotoxins, as I said, I know they are all hazard. We could have something in common as a solution, but not 100%. So we should work hard and know what could go in common. And it will be very good, like when you go to the community, you say this package will solve antimicrobial resistance, mycotoxins, and whatever. And they will go with the other context-specific solutions for AMR and many others. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Professor Kakoko, you had hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Mdegela, for the talk. Really, I enjoy always when I hear from Professor Mdegela, and I always learn something. I've heard him for several times, but then when he presents, I learn something. Yeah, I wish to echo from the Department of Behavioral Sciences in Morogoro University, and I would wish to echo very fortunately, unfortunately, Professor Kimaro. Perhaps he has directed what I wanted to echo. Let's see on the side of behavioral ethics. We'll look at the something he presented. He presented on behavioral aspects, but I would like to add something on. He says you use antibiotics when it's prescribed. But I should say that in addition to that, there should be good adherence. So use is one thing, but also adherence is another thing. Because many people would use antibiotics, but without being adherent to the medical advice. Otherwise, I think it's very, very important to also look at the issues of human behaviors, because they take a large part in terms of the problems that we are currently facing. I don't know whether to sue or they are having the Department of Behavioral Sciences, but Muimbili is said to have the Department of Behavioral Sciences because they realize human behaviors have a lot of challenge to do with a lot of diseases and health problems.
Thank you very much. I cannot do without inviting my Vice Chancellor. Please, welcome. It's your turn now.
As a very lay person. So, I mean, in agriculture, in good agricultural practices, our main worry was zoonotics, that using manure would give you E. coli, for example. And now, using manure will give us the antimicrobial stuff. So what is the trend now? I mean, if they come together, means the E. coli would die, right? So we are solving one solution, and if that is true, that is one question. The other one, which is also very layered from the perspective of what we use in crop protection, using sublethal dose, I would think, of penicillin or anything, does not induce resistance, because I would assume these biotypes are genetically resistant by nature. They are like that. So what is the main cause of human? Because I'm taking penicillin, but naturally I have some strains that are naturally resistant. Whether you take a full dose or a sublethal dose, they would not die. So what we have in crop protection, what we believe in is that taking a sublethal dose does not induce resistance. Well, the people believe that kitumia dawa kidogo wadudu wanalewa hawafi, which is not true. Because these are naturally resistant. Whether you use a high, lower, middle dose, it doesn't matter. So I'm not sure whether you also share the same view with the microbes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have a couple of questions from online participants. The first one from Simon Kayombo is saying, is a neuroceutical food or feed a way forward to solve this problem of AMR? I'll give you the copy of the question. Second is from Maya Togolani. He's saying, how far have we achieved on the goals set by 2017 National AMR Strategy? And the last one is from Abaka, saying, Professor Mdegela, can you provide a snapshot on how aquatic sentinels can be used to address this and other wicked problems, including contraceptives contaminations? Think you respond to that? Now, Professor Ntambo.
Thank you very much, Professor Mdegela, for excellent presentation on a very serious issue. We know that antimicrobial resistance is a very big problem. Today, livestock farmers keep syringes, medicines. Today you get ill, you Google, then you go and buy medicine. And we ourselves sometimes promote community animal health workers. We train them for 2 weeks, 37 livers, and then they go and treat animals. All this bring about a very, very big problem. So much as I agree with all the recommendations on the approaches, behavioral changes, but I think the best approach on behavioral changes should start from the earlyhood education. You mentioned about the kids. When you train a kid at a very young age, will stick to that. So even if he sees that the neighbor is selling milk after treating the animals, he says that I'm not going to drink that milk. So if we can include this in, I don't know, the Ministry of Education, if they can think of putting this in the curriculum from the primary education to secondary institution. So I really commend for this presentation, because I'm sure even if you brought a farmer here, he would understand what you talked about. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Professor Chenyambuga, you had a question.
Thank you, Mr. Facilitator and the Professor Mdegela. I have just two questions. One is this issue of one health concept. How practical is this? What mechanisms are there to make sure that people involved work together? Because the way I see the human medical doctor, they work over there, or the veterinary doctor, they actually work over there. The crop scientists, they work over there. What mechanisms are there to make sure that this thing you're talking about becomes practical?
So it's about having people from different disciplines working together in the one health
because
concept.
the way, apart from doing research, but for example, you've got the district, they work together. The district level or something like that. Even at the ministerial level. Another thing we have there is this, a lot of being said of antimicrobial resistance from consumption of livestock or agricultural products. So how do we, I don't know if from your experience, if you have a study or something, which one, does it come from improper use of the antibiotics or from consumption of this types of products or fish? Because sometimes, the way I think, for example, the kind of use of fertilizer like the fish pond is something like that, it can be a cause. But maybe,
Can you summarize, please? We're out of time. Can you summarize?
Yeah, I think the question is
okay, thank you. Secretary, please. Chance for you.
Oh, yes, thanks a lot.
And the last one will come from Professor Mdegela.
Yeah, thanks a lot, and I would like to congratulate Professor Mdegela for a fantastic job. Mine was on solution number 4, prevention and control, and which I really like because I think is the most effective. But you mentioned about vaccination. How sustainable is that, given our environment where people doubt vaccination? Thanks.
Thank you. Professor Mdegela, the last one.
Thank you. Professor Mdegela, I don't know if you have a list on antimicrobials that have been approved for use in animal feed.
Okay, we would give a chance to Joseph Otieno. Joseph Otieno from online. Joseph, you have a minute for your question.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm Professor Joseph from the Institute of Traditional Medicine, MUHAS. I will thank the presenter, Professor Mdegela, for a nice presentation on a serious issue. One of the slides, that resistance increases when you come from the district hospitals, regional, and onward to the referral hospitals. But in Tanzania, it's known that normally, especially the larger proportion of our people start to go for health issues to traditional healers before they even go to the hospitals. And they start going to hospitals when things fail down there. Sometimes we overlook this. Can these two systems, traditional medicine, also contributing to this? I know that Professor Mdegela is very well informed on this. And sometimes after the conventional or hospital facilities fail, then these people goes back again to traditional healer. Can also this contribute to the resistance we are talking about today? And the last, we know that natural products, in one of the recommendations, natural products are proven that they can also contribute to fight this microbial resistance. Can we also put more effort in more research into natural products to come with the potent remedies that can also contribute into management of the microbial resistance? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Otieno. I think that there's the lady who has been raising the hand for almost 10 minutes ago. I will favor you because of the... Madam, please, welcome. You have half a minute for your question.
Thank you. My name is Albina Bayo. I'm a veterinary student from College of Veterinary Medicine and Biomedical Sciences. I have an additional point concerning gender issues relating to AMR. Actually, considering that there is biological differences between men and women, there are some diseases that affect one gender more than the other. Let's take an example of urinary tract infection. It affects mostly the female gender. And it brings some problems later on, such as an abortion and childbirth. So AMR should also be considered in gender issues. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That is, I think that makes Professor Kabote happy. Talking about the gender. And now, we have exceeded 10 minutes more of the set time. So I would like to end up here. Those questions that are remaining, we shall find a way of trying to have them answered. But I would like to welcome Professor Mdegela for the last round. So please be brief, and I would appreciate having done in the shortest time possible.
Thank you very much, and I'll try on my level best to be brief. I will start with the last two comments, which was about gender. Is true. The time would not allow. We have very strong evidence, and we have studies, the data on how AMR solutions that takes into account the gender make us succeed better than without considering gender. So thank you for the comment, and that's the reality. We have some studies, and we have data for that. And the number two, about from the last but one, there was a question from Professor Mdegela asking about approved antimicrobials as a part of animal feeds. The answer is simple. Tanzania has none. So we have a law now. We have an act Act, and we have some regulations. So use of antimicrobials in animal feeds is strictly not allowed. This is a wicked problem. People are now formulating animal feeds in their own places. What you find, they believe without putting antibiotics, there will be a challenge. The Director of Veterinary Services is here. I've seen him nodding his head. So my answer is correct. Thank you very much. So I will share with you later. In the past it was, but now we have a law, it's not allowed. Another question was about antimicrobial use and resistance in traditional settings, traditional medicine setting. Is it true? Traditional healers are very much respected, and the traditional products are highly used, and Tanzania is a good exporter. The good thing you could witness when we had a magic healer from Babu Ndolion, who went there. People of all classes went there, including from this university and from my college. I'm not saying from my church, but I saw it also from my church. There was also a magic thing happening there. So traditional healers are respected. Currently, in my group, we have a research now trying to see how the traditional healers, the drug there, could contribute to emergence of resistance. The bad thing, yes, they are healing, but now increasingly we are detecting conventional drugs in the traditional drugs, and that is a malpractice. Now you speak on you discuss with the Council for Traditional Healers. What they are waiting is to get the data, because without data, then no right to speak. But in reality, you have a challenge. So what I showed you, that study did not consider the traditional healers, but what we think in the future we should take into account and have good data, starting from the traditional healers, going to the primary level, district level, up to the referral level. Thanks for the compliment. And it's very important in the good group. I'm happy again to have a question about IPC. That vaccination we are seeing like a good approach to help animals, but we are having some resistance in humans. It is true. When you vaccinate animals, no diseases. In the no diseases, no use of antimicrobials. And if you don't use antimicrobials, you slow the rate of developing the resistance. Now, whether people are hesitant about vaccination, it's true. It's true, they are hesitant. Why? We haven't educated them. And we haven't presented to them with the case proving that what we think could help them, it is of use. I'm a veterinarian. We are having good understanding that vaccine could help. The problem that we face now is vaccination failure, for example. Caused by what? Big forests. Most of the vaccine will depend on cold chain. There is a challenge. One day, we had no power in Morogoro for 3 days. I moved around in town. During the daytime, I could hear the generators trying to cool the vaccine. At night, there was none. And the temperature was still high, as 25 degrees centigrade. And you end up having failures in the vaccine. No protection. What does it mean? So we have, this is, as I told you, is a wicked problem with no simple solution. So we think that should be studies towards that. In human beings, I cannot speak much, but I know, yes, there is resistance. Why resistance? Sometimes we don't have good questions to that effect. And if we have good question, we discuss with them, they understand the value, the resistance will go down. And I mentioned about EPs, infection prevention and control. I wanted to link with the people that we are forgetting. For example, the religious leaders. They are very important. We are now spending millions of money. We have been working for over 10 years about antimicrobial resistance, creating awareness. This year, only to realize that pastors, sheikhs, and the bishops have no good idea about AMR. So as from this year, we are saying we must go down, not go down, go high, because they are very high. I'm very careful with that. We must go high, include them. They are very useful. When they understand, they will call their pastors. And I tell you, in one Sunday, the whole country would be speaking about it, antimicrobial resistance. And they are very good. For me to call people, discuss about AMR, I pay for them. But the bishops are very clever, and the pastors. People would go there and pay the money and you get the message. You pay the sacrifice for it back. So let us use this group. It will help a lot pass the message about AMR at a costless, and the people will be paying to get that message. It is part of IPC, because as I mentioned, Deuteronomy 23:13, they are saying you must walk with the hope. But I don't see our farmers here, because open defecation is still a problem in Tanzania. We must solve it, and let us use religious leaders, use community leaders to help them come out of this challenge, which will also help solve the antimicrobial challenge. Professor Chinyambuga, the question was very good about what kind of mechanism is there to make sure that One Health works. It is working, and Tanzania is among the pioneers of One Health and a good example in the world on how One Health can work. You need three things. Number one, you need hard skills, and hard skills is what doctors get when they get training. You have a medical doctor, you have a veterinarian, agricultural expert, and so forth. Those guys will practice One Health. They need the basic knowledge. Number two, we have understood that we need soft skills, which will enable these guys communicate, collaborate, and coordinate whatever they are doing. And the soft skills are simple. It's about leadership skills. And how do you bridge these guys, make sure that they work together? The third mechanism, you must have a very good commitment and very good support from the government. In Tanzania, we are lucky. One Health approach is coordinated and is pushed by the Prime Minister's office. We started with a person. I was so happy, Mr. Chinyuka, if you could stand up, because I was debating with Chinyuka in 2010. How do we push? You should craft this person. How do we push the One Health agenda? He sacrificed from extension. His knowledge is from extension. He said, I can work with you. We had a meeting. Actually, I had to look for 10,000. And when we had that meeting, in the same meeting, we got about 50. It was about 20 million to call other people to come and work from other people who say this is a good agenda. So now we started having a desk. Now I'm told you have a section. It's growing. And everything done under One Health umbrella in Tanzania is coordinated at the Prime Minister's office, who will say no. For example, on 18th to 24th this year, we will have the campaign for antimicrobial resistance using some messages. I'm seeing a letter which was written from the ministry. It has gone to TAMISEMI. And the TAMISEMI now is pushing all sectors to be engaged in pushing the knowledge and the awareness about One Health at the grassroots level. So it works, and no problem. Since we're in the same university, we'll discuss, and you are from the animal science, we're having students from there and the instructors who are helping us to do that. About manure, about fertilizer, we are using manure to fertilize aquatic ponds. There is no doubt. We are having now evidence from our studies. You saw the data. We are having antimicrobials in manure. So if it's not treated, it will be a problem. So the solution which we are bringing now, we are developing a technology that would be destroying the antibiotics and the antimicrobials in manure before the manure is used in aquaculture, before it's used for organic farming and so forth. We have a project funded, ready for that, and I'm sure we'll come up with a better solution. Finishing is about whether we have achieved anything from the National Action Plan 2017 to 2022. The answer is yes. We have achieved a lot. We had 5 strategic objectives. One on awareness, education, and training. Number 2 was on surveillance and the research. The 3rd one, infection prevention and control. The 4th one on stewardship, and the 5th one was on science, technology, and innovations. We will be releasing the report soon. We have achieved significantly. And one of them, we have seen the reduction in the amount of antimicrobials that are used in this country. So yes, we have achieved it, and it is big. I can't say it in one sentence. Controversy. about use of antimicrobials and the contraceptives. I hear people are very quiet now. In poultry and the other livestock sector, and whether such risks could also come from water and so forth. My presentation today, antimicrobial resistance. Contraceptives are not part of it. So that we can arrange another inaugural lecture. I've worked with that. Yes, I've worked with that, and we have all proof that we are now having the estrogens and other hormones in the environment with the potential to affect fish, with the potential to affect animals. I'm not talking about humans because I'm not a human doctor, but I will speak it in another forum.
Professor Kila will do it.
Yes, Professor Kila will do that in the answer. About the potential for nutraceuticals, yes, there is a potential together with the probiotics in animals. They work quite a lot. For interest of time, I think we'll discuss it at a later stage. It was very important to get the results from the question from Professor Matawala, the Deputy Vice Chancellor for Academic. It is true, we should be worried now about zoonotic diseases, and E. coli, any manure, any fecal material will have E. coli, and not all of them are pathogenic. Now, good agricultural practices would wish to see that the manure which is used is free from that, but also the water should not be having the pathogenic E. coli. So we should be worried. The problem, our understanding is from the bacteria. And number two now, we are talking about the chemicals, because antimicrobials are induced, and high usage in animals, remember, what is metabolized is only 10 to 30%, leaving 70 to 90% unmetabolized. If we don't treat manure, we are likely to get the antibiotics in the soil, and what we have realized, if you do flash irrigation, you get residues on vegetables, leaf vegetables. If you do underground irrigation, we find the risk in roots. So now we are talking about being careful when you use it. If you don't have the results yet, make sure that you don't eat something on the ground if you have applied underground irrigation or you have applied manure without contaminating what you see on leaf vegetables. We have data for that. But the risk is increasing about the bacteria themselves. Secondly, the genes from the bacteria, because now we are having resistant genes in the bacteria. Not necessarily that you have the bacteria that can cause risk through consumption of the plants. And that goes along with what we said, sublethal dose does not contribute to emergence of resistance. In reality, that is one of the contributions. When we say we have the genes, it means that our body and the body of bacteria, they have genes. What remains is expression. And the expression comes from the pressure, environmental pressure. So if the bacteria is having a resistant genes for, let's say ampicillin or gentamicin, without pressure, the gene will be there, but it will not be expressed, and there will be no problem. Once you have a pressure, for example, from overuse and other pressures, the gene will be expressed, then the bacteria will gain the resistance and have a problem. So from the veterinary sector, animal sector, sublethal doses are not allowed, and it is one of the contributing factors to the resistance. So I think I've tried to answer, and if I forgot something, I'll be available physically, but also online to provide more answers. Thank you.
Yeah, we really appreciate a lot. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise up. This man has done it. Then would you please clap for him? Thank you. You might have your seat back. Mr. Mdegela, you might also enjoy your seat. You have done it well. It has been more than 1.5 hours. And this is really something. You see the beauty of the professor, they never get tired. I mean, the way whenever you entice him, he keeps on talking and talking and talking. That's good. In Chinyambuga's language, they call it ecologotoria knowledge. That's Nonga also knows about it. Now, may I call upon Professor Modesta Makungu, because what is coming next is the wrap-up. is a synthesis on what has been talked about, but also we need to know what are the take-home message. And this should be given by not anybody else but his groomer, Professor Minga, who groomed this man from the undergraduate level. Now, would you like to know who is this Minga? Professor Modesta, please come and tell us who is he.
Thank you, Professor Mdegela. The acting DC, Professor Matawala. The acting Vice Chancellor, Professor Maulidi Matawala. The Deputy Vice Chancellor, Administration, Finance and Planning, Principals, Deans, Directors, invited guests, and okay, thank you, Professor Mdegela. The acting Vice Chancellor, Professor Maulidi Matawala, the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Finance, Administration and Planning, Principals, Deans, Directors, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Good evening. It's a great honor and a privilege to introduce our special guest for today, Professor Uswege Bonile Minga. Okay. Professor Minga is a graduate of Bachelor of Veterinary Medicine degree from the University of Nairobi, and he graduated his BVM in 1972. And he did his MNC at the University of Illinois in the United States of America. He graduated in 1975, and not in 1975, and he finishes a PhD at the Royal Veterinary Agricultural University in Copenhagen, Denmark, and that was in 1983. And after finishing his study, Professor Minga was employed at the East African Community from 1973 to 1975 as a researcher, and he was stationed at Inaugural, Nairobi, Kenya. And then after the breakup of the East African Community, Professor Minga was stationed briefly at the Rodent Research Center in Arusha in 1976. And from 1978 to 2002, Professor Minga was employed as academic member of staff at the Faculty of Agriculture, Forest and Veterinary Medicine. And at that time it was under the University of Dar es Salaam, and later it became as Sokoine University of Agriculture. And at that time he was employed as a lecturer, and then he raised through the ranks to become a full professor. And apart from that, Professor Minga, from 1997 to 1999, okay, Professor Minga was employed at FAU as a researcher, and at that time it was during his sabbatical leave, and I did his research on avian influenza, and I was stationed in Rome, Italy, and also in Nairobi, Kenya. But also Professor Minga, he did his also sabbatical leave from March 2001 to July 2001 at Copenhagen University in Denmark. And he did research to determine genetic differences between Salmonella gallinarum and the Salmonella purulum using a subtractive hybridization method. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Minga He is also employed as he was also employed as a deputy vice chancellor, administration at the Open University of Tanzania, and that was 2002 to 2013, and that he was stationed in Dar es Salaam. But also between from 2013 to 2021, okay, he was also employed as a provost at the Tumaini University in Dar es Salaam. And Professor Minga, he has won different research grants from different funding sources or agents, and those grants have enabled some of research and academicians to conduct research, and then also those funding, and the grants have also trained some of the postgraduate students, and they have enabled us at the university at that time when I was working at the University of Sokoine University of Agriculture to publish many papers. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Minga has published about 80 papers in reviewed journal, and also in scientific conferences. And also he has served as the chief editor in various journals, and to mention few of them is Tanzania Veterinary Journal for 4 years, but also he served as the chief editor at the Huria Journal of Science from April 2011 to June 2013. I think this Huria Journal is under the Open University of Tanzania. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Minga has also served as an external examiner in various universities in microbiology discipline. From 1986 to 1988, he served as an external examiner at the Samora Machel School of Veterinary Medicine in the University of Zambia. From 1990 to 1995, he served as an external examiner at the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine, University of Nairobi. From 1996 to 1998 and then 2001, he served as an external examiner at the Faculty of Medicine, Muhimbili University Health College. But also he has served as an external examiner at the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine, Makerere University in Uganda. That was from 1998 to 2000. He has also been an external examiner at the Faculty of Science, Department of Botany, University of Dar es Salaam from 2003 to 2005. He has also served as an external examiner at the Sokoine University of Agriculture from 2009. But also he has been an external examiner at Muhimbili University of Health and Allied Sciences from 2011. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Minga has also served as an external examiner for PhD thesis and the MSc from Makerere University, Nairobi, Muhimbili College of Health Science, Buddha College, University of Malawi, and also Department of Botany, University of Dar es Salaam and South Africa. And also Professor Minga has supervised several postgraduate students from Sokoine University of Agriculture for PhD and Masters, and he has been a chairman in several Viva-Most examination panel for PhD students, and that was on 1993 and also 1998. And also he has been served as an external reviewer for publication from academic staff for their promotion in various universities in Tanzania, Ethiopia, and Nigeria. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your attention. Professor Minga, karibu sana.
Thank you, Professor Makungu. Professor Mingi, I think, was Makong one of your students, or she came while you had gone? Okay, please, welcome. Have a podium. And I think it would be good to have a wrap-up on what has been done through this afternoon to the evening. It's called a synthesis from the presentation that has been done.
Well, I feel honored to be invited to join the audience, particularly invitation from Professor Mdegela, who was my former student. And he has done a very good job. If he was still under me, he wouldn't have achieved as much as he has done. So I commend you for the imagination and the intellect you have. I could have retarded the progress. When I met him, we agreed that he was going to do microbiology, and in Porto particularly. But I think he found this. Okay, thank you. I think he found this not so challenging, so he abandoned that area. He went for a more challenging job on antimicrobial resistance, which to me is very educative. Anyway, first I'm very proud to come back to SUA. It has been a long time, and as you know, I was here last time in 1972. Now it means I don't know so many people, but I know quite a few old guys who are still there. Yes, as former students or as colleagues. I'm proud of that. With regards to the lecture, Professor Mdegela, you have done a very good job. As I said, maybe you would have been retarded if you were still under me. You explored some very interesting areas of research, and you come up with very nice solutions. Congratulations. When somebody heard that I was here until a long time ago, especially the fact that it was in the 70s, maybe some younger guys I said, but I was not born by then. Or I was very young by then. If you look at my gray hair, it tells a big story, I guess. Professor Mdegela, congratulations for the very nice inaugural lecture. I wasn't sure what I should be talking about, because you said it all. And besides time, we are running out of time, and therefore, I feel that I commend you for the good job on antimicrobial resistance. It was my field in one way or the other, but not as deep as he has. It's a very serious problem, misuse of antibiotics, and therefore antimicrobial resistance. But who else can talk about it so well other than the presenter? So I commend you for that. Well done. It will be unfair for me to summarize something which he has done and he has summarized. But in summary, we are saying it is a serious problem. But the approach is good. The One Health approach to me is commendable. So that you look at the animal side, you look at the human side, you look at it from the environmental side. That way you'll be able to solve the problem. So as I said, I don't think I should take too much of your time, other than to say thank you for inviting me. It was a commendable job for some you've done. I noted that you invited your, is it your distant father or something? Uncle. Bishop Mdegela, you know me. And I know you even more because you are more senior than senior. So thank you for coming, Bishop Mdegela. So I don't think it would be fair for me to start looking at the questions that have been answered and therefore ask and answer as a summary. We are running out of time. So am I allowed to say thank you for the invitation? I hope I'll come back again. But one commendation that I didn't say, this university is well renowned in Tanzania. It's a strong academic. That I must be very proud of it. Well done and congratulations. You've done a good job. keep it up. So wherever I go, I say I'm originally from Sokoine. They look at me as somebody quite high up there. It's because of you. Keep it up. No more Swahili, just be scientific. So with that, once again, I thank you for inviting me, and I thank you, Professor Mdegela, for the nice lecture. I can't waste your time trying to summarize what we've done. And the answers were the questions were well answered, which is also very commendable. It just tells us the amount of command you have in the field. Congratulations. Thank you so much, audience, for listening, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Professor Minga. And I was moved. When your groomer runs out of words, then you realize you are really a professional. I promise. Congratulations. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's high time now we get vote of thanks from one of the senior ladies. You know, today we have crafted in the special way that people giving interesting words are the ladies. And I bring to you one of the biochemists. I remember when we were studying here about chemistry was one of the most difficult course. But then when she came over, all was oversimplified, and I thought of going back and restudying her day. She was once a BBC PFA for the university, and she's still on trying to mold the biochemists of this country. Not somebody else, Professor Mdegela. Please welcome for the vote of thanks. Can we clap hands to welcome her?
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Mdegela. Now, all protocols observed. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of all members who are present here today, I'm glad to be standing here to express my vote of thanks. I'm really gratified to get this chance to deliver a vote of thanks to such an honorable function. First of all, I'm thankful to the Almighty God for making this event possible. There is no one who is maybe sick, no one who have maybe affected by the antimicrobial resistance. So I would like also to thank the Acting Vice Chancellor, Professor Matawala, and also the Deputy Vice Chancellor for PAF, Professor Maidwa, for taking time out of their busy schedule also to come here and be with us on this particular occasion. I would also like to thank the principals, deans, directors, heads of departments, and also the facilitators of the whole process. We had the director of the DPRTC, Professor Kalibipo, Professor Sibuga, Professor Minga, Professor Mdegela, and Professor Modesta Makungu. I think we have all seen their participation in the whole process here. I've seen also we have visitors who have traveled very far also to be part of this occasion. Now, in the interest of time, since they have been mentioned several times, I will not mention them, but I would also like to thank you very much for coming. Your presence has added the honor to this particular occasion. Now, a lot of thanks also to the entire audience, and there are also some members who are following up on the Zoom, but also to the Professor Mdegela's family. Thank you very much, all of you. Okay, now my special thanks go to Professor Robinson Hamilton Mdegela for delivering such an outstanding, great inaugural lecture. That was terrific presentation. Now, personally, I've enjoyed every minute of the lecture, as well as your sense of humor. I'm sure all of us appreciate the information and the advice you have shared. Congratulations for an excellent performance. Now, there are so many memorable points raised by the presenter, but I will just point out a few. Today we have got an eye-opener on the antimicrobial resistance, which is a big threat to the life of the human beings. Now myself, I did not know that before, so it has been a very good opportunity for me to attend this lecture and be able to understand what actually is there. We have learned that diseases are inseparable with the antimicrobials. Now, as long as diseases are there, actually the use of antimicrobial is unavoidable. And we have also an opportunity to cherish the invention by Sir Alexander Fleming, who actually is the one alerted the world on the dangers of the antimicrobial resistance. From the lecture also, we have been informed that the antimicrobial resistance is a natural phenomenon, and that also that this is a strategy of survival for the microbes. Now, you know, every creature is actually struggling to survive. So likewise, even the microbes, they'll make sure that they exist, whatever you do to them. Okay, we have also learned that we have to tackle maybe this problem from different angles. You know, we have been scared of the HIV/AIDS, but from today, with this information that the antimicrobial resistance are even more fatal, I think it sounds scary. But as we have been advised, we need to make sure that we get prescription from the doctors before maybe we can go to the counters to buy the antibiotics. You know, we are used to just going to there and then number, what? One of them, what is, they must buy tetracycline. So someone will just go for tetracycline or rangimbili, as we are used to call them. But now, I think from today, for all of us who are here, we have got the message. We also need to go and spread the message to others so that we be careful, not just taking the antibiotics just randomly, because it is dangerous. And another something which is also dangerous, which you have heard today, is that most of us do not observe the withdrawal, maybe period, when maybe we have treated our animals. And we have seen that it is actually a big debate, but all in all, maybe we have to take precaution. And about the manure, I think most of us did not know that there is also a danger in using manure. We have been knowing that this is the organic fertilizer, it is very safe. That's what actually we have in our minds. But at least today, we have been able to know that it is also affected by this antimicrobials, so we also need to be resistant. But again, that there's no maybe one solution to this problem, but at least we have known that one health approach may give the solution. So ladies and gentlemen, let me thank again our presenter and wish him all the best in all his endeavors so that he can continue with this work, which is very important to our livelihood. Thank you very much, and a good evening.
Thank you so much, Professor Mdegela. Somebody said the moderator did not introduce himself, but I've been introduced a couple of times. So with this, I would like to thank you all for coming. I'm not sure whether the Vice Chancellor has something to say, but if he's nodding like everything's smooth, and actually that assures me that I've done his job as instructed me to do. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank you all for coming, and I think this marks the end of our session. For those of you who have been invited to the extra show in the evening, please go there with your card so that you are acknowledged as invited guests. Otherwise, we hope to meet again as Lord wishes. Oh, Madam. Now, there's something I would like to share with you. I don't know what will happen today, Professor Robin, because I think you have widened your bed and the bedroom is bigger because now things have grown up and are put on. So wish you well in your future endeavor, and please, ladies and gentlemen, we'll have the SWASA people taking him out with the university executive, and then the rest of us will follow. Thank you so much for your time. We want photos with, yes, outside. So we shall take the photo outside this building on the northern part. Okay, the northern part, this side. So we go out through the northern part, then we shall take near the entrance, we shall take the photo in different groups. Please, let's go there for that.